It's time for another episode of the Joshcast. Today we have a professional opening. It is the Concerto Number 4 by Brahms. I have no idea if that's even true. That's just me playing the radio right now. And the guy even announced what it was before I started recording, and I didn't even listen. I was too busy obsessing over my own neuroses to notice. But isn't that a nice way to start a podcast? Isn't that nice? Doesn't that get you in the right place? Now here's the thing that's occurring to me as I'm continuing this podcast. I held up the phone to the radio that was playing classical music. However, I'm recording this through the headphones, which means it's entirely possible that you have heard nothing when this opened, and then I proceeded to tell you, isn't that nice classical music? Which makes me look insane. But that kind of insanity might just be the angle that this podcast has been missing. So that is just what happened. Now I could go back and start over and make it look like I'm not an idiot, but that would not be fair to you. Failure is the cornerstone of this podcast. Without failure, this podcast has no engine. Failure is the Optimus Prime to the Transformers movie that is this podcast. Terrible set yesterday. I was too into my material. I wasn't talking to the audience. And I'm at this place where, here's what I've noticed. If things are not working, I will try to be personal. And I will be vulnerable and reveal something, which is good. That's typically what is important. But there's a part of me that wants to be able to do less personal material, even in situations where the audience is not entirely receptive. And I'm not sure if that's a worthy cause to be able to make something that's not inherently personal work anywhere. I don't know if that's a worthy cause or not. Because on the one hand, you know, the personal, unique stuff is typically what enables comedians to be noticed in this day and age. But on the other hand, if me, being more personal, just dipping into something embarrassing about myself when it's not going well, if that becomes the go-to for when things are not going well, if that becomes the safety net, then that in and of itself kind of negates the whole purpose of being personal. So now I'm not being personal to be personal because I'm trying to say something genuinely as a comedian. I'm being personal to try to get laughs, to try to make it work. And that is... and the audience is going to smell that. That's my theory. So, and I feel it's important for me to be always pushing myself and always taking risks. So that said, the risk, I think sometimes, is that in a hostile environment, I need to stick to what I want to talk about. That's what I'm learning. As opposed to retreating into a fear-based decision. And even if I fall on my face, at least I'm doing it saying what I want to say. And that is the end of that essay. Seeing a Coors Light truck. Their slogan is "Born in the Rockies, established 1978. Coors Light, 40 years. Coors Light has been around for 40 years. It's a long time for a light beer. I always hear, I don't drink, so I don't know anything about the actual experiences of alcohol. But I do hear a lot of people making fun of Coors Light. It is not a beer that I hear good things about. Too much. I've never heard of somebody saying, oh my God, I just found out, Mom, Dad, I just found out I got into Harvard. Let's open up the Coors Light. Mom, Dad, it's a boy. Let's open up the Coors Light. We've discovered the cure for all diseases. As a result, we can drink Coors Light with impunity. Am I making fun of Coors Light? Yes. Does Coors Light deserve that? I don't know, because I've never had Coors Light. I can only speculate as to the quality or lack thereof of Coors Light. I can only go off of what I have heard. I was watching a science special on Netflix about black holes. And the fact of the black hole is that the only way to really observe a black hole is to observe what's happening to the particles and to the stars that exist around the black hole. So the way that scientists observe a black hole is the only way that I can observe Coors Light. I can only observe the effects of Coors Light. And what I've observed thus far is a profoundly negative response. So, is there scientific accuracy to that? Not quite. I mean, I haven't done a empirical analysis of this. I haven't collected data. And so we're not even on a hypothesis at this point. We're only at the vague ruminations of the beginnings of a hypothesis about the quality of Coors Light. Because one could argue that Coors Light has been around for 40 years. So enough people have to be consuming it, or at least purchasing it, in order for the brand to continue to survive. Which refutes the beginnings of the theory that I had, or the beginnings of the hypothesis I had, that Coors Light is perhaps not the greatest beer in the world. Unless those theories coexist, that perhaps it is a cheaper beer, and socioeconomic pressures, which if removed, would enable people to purchase a better kind of beer, force people to purchase Coors Light. Again, I don't know the answers to these questions. Perhaps Einstein would, if he were still here. Perhaps he would be able to develop the Coors Light theory of relativity, which is the more that you're around your relatives, the more you need to drink Coors Light. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Punchline. It was a long way to go for that. We don't know what's inside the black hole. We're not entirely sure. According to this special, the theory is that it's all the matter that's been sucked into the black hole and the energy. That's what that is. I don't know. I have never, again, much like Coors Light, I've never been inside of a black hole. So I do not know the answer to that question. I remember seeing the movie The Black Hole, the Disney movie, and they tried to answer the question by saying that what's inside the black hole is, I think, either a gateway to hell and then heaven or hell, depending on how good you've been. Which is an interesting theory. And if you've been bad, I guess you'd go into hell, which is and you get merged with a robot, and you stand on a mountain, and you're looking down at people who are being tormented by demons. That's what happened to the bad guy in the black hole. He merged with his bad robot and apparently spent an eternity looking down at hell. Now, my thinking is, here's my question. If he was bad, and his punishment was he has to watch people suffer, how bad were the people who were suffering? I mean, they must have been worse. They must have had robots that were even worse than his robot. They must have thrown people down, 4 or 5 black holes. Or, and this is what I suspect, and I can't explain to you why I suspect this, but the bad guy was also rich. And I just have a feeling that the people in hell who were suffering were somehow poor, and he was rich and only had to watch the suffering but not cause the suffering. So even hell is gentrified. That's what that movie taught me. Even hell is gentrified. I think that movie came out right after Star Wars. I think it had been in development before and during Star Wars. I can't remember exactly. Or if it was one of they have Star Wars, let's try to do our own thing. And it was, all in all, a good movie. The thing I remember about that movie is that John Barry did the score, and it was a weird score. It was a good score, but it didn't feel to me, it felt like he composed the theme and then they just overlaid the theme over action sequences. So or they overlaid the theme over part of the action sequences. So it didn't feel like he was organically measuring the score the way most composers do. It almost felt like the score was a separate thing, and then they they brought it in as you would bring in a previously written piece of music that had nothing to do with the movie. I can actually sing it for you. Ba da da da, ba da dun dun da, bum ba 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 ba, da da dun dun da, da da dun dun da 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 da. So you want me to copy Star Wars? Well, here you go. I'm going to collect my paycheck now. That could be why that score is the way it is. No offense to John Barry, great composer, did the James Bond stuff, did Out of Africa. John Barry was good at coming up with, here's what I love about John Barry. No matter what score he comes up with, there's a twinge of depression. Even in that one, ba da 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 dun dun da dun da 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 dun dun da 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 dun 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 da 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 da. This is a triumphant score, but at the end of the day there is no God, and I know that for sure. Now it could be that I'm just projecting, and he doesn't have the depression and everything. Maybe that's what I see reflected through his score. But I feel like there's always that twinge of sadness underlying every score that he does. I think he did Out of Africa too. And I think that one was, that could be Dances with Wolves that I'm thinking of. Out of Africa was ba da 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 ba da da da. Robert Redford died in a plane crash. No, Robert Redford. And now Meryl Streep is all alone on her farm. That was a depressing movie. Yeah, 80s movie, Meryl Streep, it's going to be depressing. That's the rule. 80s movie plus Meryl Streep equals, Sophie's Choice. This isn't going to be a picnic. That's what that means. 80s movie with Meryl Streep. Oh, you better be happy. You better be really happy in your life. Because it's about to get dark. She had a Dutch accent in that movie, as I recall. I'm moving to Africa. That is the worst Dutch accent. And what that can only mean is that I'm going to lean hard into this bad accent. Because that's my new favorite thing to do, is bad accents. I am from the Netherlands. And it is hard to move to America after being from the Netherlands. That's not even remotely Dutch. Here's a Dutchman talking to a Frenchman. I have never been to France. You are not even pronouncing words the way a Dutchman would pronounce the words. You are just shouting them. You sound essentially German. I am not German. I am Dutch. That is not. That I do not know what you are doing. I do not understand what you are doing. This is a waste of my time. That's how bad my Dutch accent is. It makes my French accent look good. That's a profoundly horrible thing, what just happened. I feel like I need to write a letter of apology to the Netherlands. And I'm genuinely hoping that when I say Netherlands, they're the ones who speak Dutch, right? Oh, God. Oh, God. I'm having an American moment. Oh, hey, there's a Coors truck now. Or is it Coors Light? I can't tell. It's partially obscured by the bus stop. Would this be the second Coors Light vehicle that I have seen? They are in full force today. We must spread the life-giving nectar that is Coors Light to all of North Hollywood and downtown Burbank. And it must be done with expediency. Bright and early Monday morning. Go forth, my Coors minions, and do not return until the hundreds of thousands of smiling faces of Coors Light drinkers illuminate the western United States in a blaze of happiness and joy. That should so be what they say to the truck drivers. That should be their speech. They should get that speech every Monday. Seeing a guy on a bicycle with a neon helmet. Good for you, sir. No, sir, you don't look nerdy. Oh, I stand corrected. This was not a Coors Light truck. This was just a regular Coors truck. I think the guy still probably gave the speech. Who is that guy? I don't even know. He doesn't even work at Coors. But he just comes in every Monday and gives that speech. And, it's a nice speech. We like listening to it. So right now I'm caught behind this moron who's making a left turn in the middle of rush hour. And what I love that he did, this is what everyone does, I've done this too, is he can tell that I'm behind him, or she, looks like it's a she. She can tell that I'm behind her, and so she acknowledges that by inching forward 2 inches, saying, yes, I know, yes, I know. I know this is wrong. I know I shouldn't be doing this. I know I'm putting up traffic. It's that quarter-inch acknowledgement that you're being a pig. Love it. absolutely love it. So, that is the nature of our estate, isn't it? That is the nature of time and space. That is what is happening here. That is the fundamental nature of the black holes, man. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were Dutch. Ja, man. I'm from the Netherlands, man. I don't think that's remotely where you're from. You sound like you're trying to sound like someone who's from Jamaica. And we're going to have to draft 19 additional letters of apology because of that accent that you just did.